Welcome back to Alien Watchers. In part two of this cosmic journey, Alex and his crew face even tougher challenges. After defeating Maleth and freeing Dreth, they continue their mission to bring freedom to oppressed planets. Along the way, they'll encounter old and new threats, as well as unexpected secrets. Stay tuned for an exciting adventure that will change the fate of the galaxy. The stars outside the Eclipse shimmered like diamonds against the endless void of space, but inside the ship, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The once vibrant hum of the ship's engines seemed quieter, as if even they sensed the urgency of the situation. Alex stared at the supply monitor, his brow furrowed. The once efficient readings now seemed to mock him. He pushed a button on his console, bringing up the ship's supply logs. R3X, Alex called, his voice unusually calm. What's the status of our supplies? Captain, I'm afraid the news isn't good. We have enough food for about 3 more days if we ration strictly. After that, we'll be relying on our ability to scavenge or, adapt, if you're into survivalist techniques. Alex exhaled deeply, leaning back in his chair. The reality of the situation was setting in. They had been running from one conflict to the next, Voidborn skirmishes, encounters with Galactic Organization scouts. But now, the very thing that had sustained them was dwindling. Food. Water. The most basic of needs. Zaya entered the control room, her boots making a soft clicking sound as she approached. Captain, she said, her voice laced with concern, we can't afford to let this situation go much longer. The crew's morale is hanging by a thread, and we're in no position to negotiate with anyone at the moment. We need supplies, and we need them now. Alex nodded, his gaze never leaving the screen. I know. We need to find a nearby planet or station that can help us. Zaya leaned against the console, crossing her arms. This is the worst timing. We've been running low on supplies for days, and now we're going to have to make some hard choices. I don't like the sound of that. R3A, don't shoot the messenger. If you want me to find a solution, I can try. However, my recommendation would be to locate the nearest planet with the resources we need. Fortunately, I've found a likely candidate. Alex glanced at the display. Where? R3X, Dreth. It's a remote, barely inhabited planet. The good news is it has a small trading post where you can scavenge for supplies. The bad news? It's not exactly the kind of place you want to spend your vacation. Zaya raised an eyebrow. Dreth? That place is practically a wasteland. Are you sure it's worth it? If by worth it you mean better than starving, then yes. But if you were expecting a bustling metropolis, you're in for a disappointment. It's not even a good place for a quick stopover. Alex rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the decision press on him. We don't have a choice, Zaya. If we don't get supplies soon, we won't make it to the next system. We're going to Dreth. The Eclipse drifted toward Dreth, its engines purring softly as it approached the barren planet. The view from the observation deck was not inspiring, just a dusty, unremarkable rock floating in the vastness of space. As the ship descended, Alex could see the surface was a patchwork of rugged terrain, with little to suggest it had once been anything more than a forgotten outpost. We've arrived, Alex said as the ship touched down on Dreth's surface. The planet's atmosphere, thin and unwelcoming, greeted them with an unsettling silence. He turned to Zaya. Stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into. Zaya's eyes scanned the barren landscape outside the window. We're lucky if we find enough food to keep us alive, let alone deal with any unexpected hostiles. If we're not careful, this place could become our grave. Alex nodded. He had heard rumors about Dreth. It was known as a hub for smugglers and outlaws, those who were too desperate to survive in the fringes of the galaxy. This wasn't a place for the faint-hearted, but if it meant saving his crew, Alex would take whatever risks necessary. R3X. Oh, look at that. A charmingly desolate wasteland. How cozy. I can practically smell the welcoming committee. The crew disembarked, their boots crunching on the dry, cracked ground as they made their way to the closest settlement. It wasn't much, a few rusted buildings, some with broken windows, and a single dusty street stretching into the distance. The air was thick with the smell of decay. This place feels like it hasn't seen life in decades, Zaya muttered, eyeing the empty streets. Keep your eyes open, Alex said, scanning the surroundings. We're here for supplies, not to make friends. They walked toward the only building that seemed to have any life, A old, nondescript tavern with a flickering neon sign above the door reading Grub and Grits. The lights inside were dim, and the scent of something cooking wafted out when the door creaked open. Inside, the atmosphere was unexpectedly warm compared to the cold, desolate planet outside. The room was filled with the scent of freshly cooked food, and a few figures sat at the bar, hunched over their meals. The sound of a sizzling stove and a low murmur of conversation filled the air. At the counter stood a man, his back turned as he prepared something in a skillet. He was large, his skin a shade of green, with an oversized head and large, round eyes. His long neck gave him an imposing look, and his hands moved with surprising speed as he expertly wielded two large, gleaming swords, cutting, flipping, and dicing ingredients as though he were a master. Zaya raised an eyebrow. That's not what I expected. Alex scanned the room, taking in the unusual sight. We need food, and we need it fast. The man turned, his eyes locking with theirs. His gaze was sharp, but he gave them a small smile as if welcoming them. You folks look like you're in need of a good meal. Do you have any supplies? Alex asked, trying to stay focused. We're running low, and we need everything. Food, water, anything you have. The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he eyed them closely, a flicker of curiosity crossing his face. I can help you, but first, tell me why I should help you. Dreth isn't exactly known for hospitality. Alex was quick to respond. We're here to survive, just like everyone else. We'll trade what we can, but right now, all we need is a bit of kindness in this wasteland. The man chuckled lightly. Kindness, huh? I don't deal in that, but I deal in food. I can spare some provisions, but I'll need something in return. What's your name, by the way? Alex, he said, extending his hand. And this is Zaya. Zaya nodded curtly. The man shook his hand. Jim, I run this place. I could always use help around here. But if you want my food, I need a trade. Something I can't get just anywhere. He paused, his eyes gleaming. You see, I've always dreamed of leaving Dreth. I've cooked here for too long, and I want to explore the stars. If you can help me get off this rock, I'll give you more than enough supplies. Alex raised an eyebrow. You want to leave Dreth? And how exactly do you plan on getting off-world? Jim set down his cooking tools and wiped his hands on his apron. I know things. I know people. But more importantly, I know food. Better than anyone on this planet. If you want real food and the means to get out of here, I'll join your crew, in exchange for a chance to explore the stars. Zaya frowned. We don't have time to take on some random guy's dream. We need resources, not baggage. Alex considered Jim's proposal. He wasn't entirely sure they had the luxury of time to help a stranded chef achieve his dreams, but something about Jim felt necessary. Perhaps they didn't just need supplies. Perhaps they needed someone with a different set of skills, someone who could think on their feet in a way they hadn't yet. We'll help you, Alex said, but only on one condition. You join us. You'll need to do more than cook. We need someone who can fight and think in a crisis. Are you in? Jim's grin widened. I'm in, and I can cook like nobody else. The Eclipse floated silently through the black abyss of space, its engines purring quietly, a steady hum that reverberated through the walls. Outside the viewing deck, the stars shone like scattered jewels, distant and indifferent to the troubles below. Inside, the atmosphere was different, tense, expectant. Alex stared out the observation window, his thoughts drifting like the stars. Dreth was approaching, a barren, unremarkable planet on the edge of the galaxy. The kind of place you'd avoid unless you had no choice, but for them it was their last hope. R3X, Alex called, his voice steady but with a hint of weariness. How long until we reach Dreth? About 10 minutes, Captain. But don't get too excited, it's a wasteland. The kind of place you visit if you want to be forgotten. Alex let out a sigh. I don't need excitement right now. I just need food. Zaya, standing beside him, crossed her arms, her gaze unwavering. Food, water, and whatever else we can scavenge. I've never liked the idea of depending on planets like this, but if we don't get something soon, we're in real trouble. Oh, don't worry, we'll find something. It's not like Dreth has a 5-star restaurant, it's more of a fast food kind of place, if you're into things that are cooked under the right amount of desperation. Zaya shot a side eye at R3X. Let's just hope it's better than that. Alex chuckled under his breath, feeling the pressure of the situation, but his mind was still on the crew's survival. There was no room for mistakes now. If Dreth didn't offer what they needed, they'd be back to square one. Starvation, dehydration, and then who knew what else? The ship entered Dreth's atmosphere. The view below a sea of dust and rocky terrain. Nothing but desolation as far as the eye could see. The air felt thick, almost as though the planet itself didn't want to be disturbed. It wasn't a welcoming place, but right now it was their only option. As the Eclipse descended toward the surface, Alex looked at his crew. Zaya was already checking her weapons, her mind sharp, her instincts always ready for whatever might come their way. Jim, the new member of the crew, stood nearby, his large frame filling the room. He had been quiet since the deal was struck, but Alex could tell his excitement was barely contained. Jim had quickly proved himself a valuable addition to the team, though Alex still wasn't entirely sure about the man. He was a chef, but there was more to him. Jim's skills with the swords, the way he handled himself during their brief encounter with the pirates, it was clear that he wasn't just a cook. But what else did he bring to the table? Zaya, sensing Alex's thoughts, leaned in and whispered, "I still don't trust him." Alex glanced at her, meeting her eyes. "I don't trust anyone right now, Zaya, but we don't have the luxury of being picky. We need him, and he's our best shot." "Fair enough," Zaya replied. "Just keep an eye on him." "Oh, come on, what could go wrong? It's not like Dreth has any hostile fauna or a terrible economy." "Oh wait, it's all of that." The ship landed on the dusty surface, and the crew disembarked, stepping out onto the barren, lifeless ground. Dreth was exactly as R3X had described: dusty, forgotten, and hostile. A few dilapidated buildings sat haphazardly along the edge of the landing zone. There was no welcoming party, no signs of life aside from the wind that swept the dirt and debris across the cracked earth. "Nice place you brought us to, Jim," Zaya remarked dryly, adjusting her gear. Jim gave a small chuckle, unfazed. "I told you, it's not much to look at, but it's where we'll find what we need. Follow me." They walked through the desolate landscape, the sound of their footsteps muffled by the soft dust beneath them. As they moved, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, though there was no sign of anyone nearby. Zaya, ever cautious, remained alert, scanning the area with sharp eyes. The building they approached was no more inviting than the rest of Dreth, old, with peeling paint and cracked windows. A faint light flickered above the door, which creaked loudly as Jim pushed it open. Inside was a small, dimly lit tavern, with a few ragged travelers hunched over tables, their faces hidden beneath the hoods of their tattered clothing. The air was thick with the smell of food cooking, but it wasn't the most appetizing scent. Still, the crew had no choice but to enter. A man stood behind the counter. He was tall, with green skin and an imposing figure. His large eyes locked onto Alex and his crew as they entered. He was cooking with two large, curved swords, skillfully chopping ingredients with precision. "Well, well," the man said, his deep voice carrying through the room. "New faces. Not many people come to Dreth unless they're desperate." Alex took a step forward. "We need supplies, food, water. Do you have anything to spare?" The man set his swords down, his eyes narrowing. "What's in it for me? This isn't a charity." Zaya, ever practical, responded. "We have credits, and we're willing to trade." The man looked at them for a moment, then smiled. "I'm Jim, and while I'm not the most charitable fellow, I can help, for a price." As the crew sat down at the bar, Jim served them plates of food, simple but filling. The stew was thick, a mixture of vegetables and meat, though it wasn't clear where the meat came from. Despite the unappealing look of it, Alex couldn't deny that it tasted better than he had expected. "This is better than I thought it would be," Alex admitted, taking a bite. Jim leaned forward, wiping his hands on his apron. "It's not just food I'm offering. It's information. Dreth has more problems than just a food shortage. There's a man here, someone who controls everything on this planet. His name is Malith. He's a psychic, and he runs everything from his palace in the heart of the city." Zaya frowned. "A psychic? That's new." Jim nodded, his face darkening. "Malith controls all of Dreth's resources. He has the power to manipulate people, to keep them in line. He controls everything: food, water, technology. People here are slaves to him, and if you cross him, you're done." Alex exchanged a glance with Zaya. This wasn't just about getting supplies. There was something much bigger happening here, and it sounded like Malith was at the heart of it. "We're not here to start a revolution," Zaya said, voice steady but filled with concern. We just need to survive. Jim shrugged. Survival's going to be hard on Dreth as long as Malith's in power. But if you help me take him down, I can get you what you need. Supplies, resources, maybe even a way off this rock. Alex stared at Jim for a long moment. He didn't trust easily, but the man seemed to have knowledge of the planet and of something far worse. We'll help you, Alex said finally, but on one condition. You join our crew. You'll need to do more than cook. You'll need to fight if it comes to that. Jim's eyes lit up, his grin wide. Deal. Oh, look at that. A chef turned freedom fighter. This should be fun. I can already see the headlines. Eclipse crew rescues Dreth, now serving lunch to the Galaxy. Zaya rolled her eyes. Let's just get this over with. The tavern was a far cry from the sleek, high-tech environments Alex and his crew were used to. The faint glow of dim lamps created an almost haunted ambience, and the air, thick with the scent of stews and frying meats, clung to everything. It was the kind of place where travelers came to hide, where the destitute sought solace in cheap food and drink. It was far from welcoming, but desperate times called for desperate measures. Alex, Zaya, and Jim sat at a small table near the back, trying to blend in with the scattered patrons who eyed them curiously. The food was passable, nothing spectacular, but it was filling enough to give them the strength to continue their mission. It wasn't much, but in this forsaken corner of the galaxy, it was better than nothing. As they ate, Jim leaned forward, his large green hands resting on the table. His gaze was intense, filled with knowledge that seemed to stretch beyond the walls of the tavern. It was clear that he had seen more of the galaxy than he let on. You want supplies, and I can help, Jim said, his voice low and steady. But you should know, it's not just food you're after. It's freedom. Dreth is a prison, and Malith is the warden. Zaya chewed slowly, her eyes narrowing. You told us about Malith, but you didn't explain why he's such a big deal. He's just a psychic, right? Jim's lips curled into a half smile, his large eyes gleaming. Oh, he's more than just a psychic. He's a manipulator, a controller. He has the power to make people see what he wants them to see, to bend their wills to his. He doesn't just rule Dreth. He controls the minds of those under him. Everyone here is a slave to his influence, and it's only a matter of time before he decides that no one is safe. Alex frowned, trying to process the gravity of what Jim was saying. So, how does someone like him gain that kind of power? Jim leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming lightly on the table. Malith didn't get this way overnight. He was once a simple man, a wanderer, much like any of us. But he stumbled upon something ancient, something powerful. A relic of the past, from a time when psychics ruled entire civilizations. He learned how to harness its power, and with it, he started controlling everything on Dreth. Zaya exchanged a glance with Alex. So, Dreth is under his thumb because of some ancient power? Jim nodded solemnly. Exactly. And that's why I'm offering to help you. If you want supplies, if you want to survive, you'll have to take down Malith. But know this, it won't be easy. The longer he's in power, the stronger his hold on the planet becomes, and he won't go down without a fight. Alex leaned forward, his gaze steady on Jim. And what's your stake in all this? Why do you care? Jim's expression softened, and for a moment, a flicker of vulnerability passed over his face. Because I'm stuck here, just like everyone else. I've been trying to leave for years. I've seen the way Malith controls everything, how he uses fear to keep people in line. But what Malith doesn't realize is that there are others who want to see him fall. I've made a deal with a few friends. Help me take him down, and I'll give you everything I've got. Supplies, connections, even a way off this rock. Alex exchanged a glance with Zaya. There was no question in his mind that Jim's offer was more than just a business transaction. Jim had made it clear that he was a man with his own agenda, one that went far beyond cooking. All right, Alex said, breaking the silence. We'll help you take down Malith. But there's a condition. You join our crew. You're not just a cook anymore. You'll need to fight when the time comes. Jim's eyes widened for a moment before he broke into a grin. Deal, he said, extending his hand. I'm in. But you should know, I'm not just a cook. I've seen things, been places. I'll be ready when the time comes. R3X. Oh, good. We've got ourselves a new crew member. A cook who can fight. What's next? A janitor with a PhD in quantum physics? Zaya shot R3X a look but couldn't hide the smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. Let's just get through this before R3X comes up with another one of his helpful suggestions. Alex stood up, his mind already racing through their next steps. All right, Jim, welcome to the crew. We'll need to get to work on a plan to deal with Malith. Let's gather what information we can and then we make our move. Jim nodded, his demeanor serious now. I've been planning this for a long time. I know where Malith's weaknesses lie. We're going to need to strike fast before he realizes what's coming. Alex turned to Zaya. Let's prep the ship. We're going to need all the firepower we can muster. Ah, I see. A classic underdog tale. A ragtag group of rebels takes on the evil overlord. And by the way, we're still low on snacks. Let's not forget about that. Zaya sighed, shaking her head. One thing at a time, R3X. The crew spent the next few hours gathering intel. Jim led them through the dark underbelly of Dreth, showing them secret entrances and hidden paths that only a local would know. As they moved deeper into the heart of the city, it became clear that the people here lived in fear. Every corner they turned, every face they passed, seemed to reflect the oppression that Malith had imposed on the planet. He controls everything, Jim said quietly as they walked through the slums. The people are too afraid to even look up anymore. Malith's influence has infected every part of Dreth. We'll have to be careful. Zaya kept a close eye on their surroundings, her hand never straying far from her weapon. Do you have any idea where he's hiding? We need to strike at the heart of it. Jim nodded. Malith's fortress is in the center of the city, but it's heavily guarded. We'll need to create a distraction to get inside, but once we're in, we'll have to find his psychic source, his power. That's where he draws his strength from. Alex stopped in his tracks, turning to face Jim. How do you know all of this? Jim's eyes were shadowed with something Alex couldn't quite read. Let's just say I've spent enough time studying Malith and his habits. I know where to hit. As they prepared their strategy, R3X couldn't resist adding its 2 cents. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we might just be on the verge of a revolution. A psychic overlord, a secret fortress, and a ragtag crew with a cook who's also a warrior. What could possibly go wrong? Zaya shot a look at the ship's AI. If you're not careful, R3X, you'll end up in the brig with the rest of the prisoners we're rescuing. I like my chances better on the outside, thanks. But seriously, keep me posted. If I'm going to be part of this operation, I'd like to know what's at stake, aside from snacks. The dim light from the tavern flickered as the crew gathered around a rickety wooden table, the sound of distant chatter echoing through the grimy windows. Alex sat across from Jim, who had just revealed his knowledge of the inner workings of Malith's rule over Dreth. The tension in the air was palpable, but the reality of their mission was beginning to settle in. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about rebellion, about freedom. Alex leaned forward, his eyes narrowing as he studied Jim's face. You said Malith controls everything, that he's a psychic who manipulates the minds of the people. But you haven't told us everything, have you? Jim shifted uncomfortably, his large green hands gripping the edge of the table. His usual confident demeanor seemed to falter for just a second before he regained his composure. There's more. Malith's power, it's not just in his psychic abilities. That's part of it. But there's something more ancient, something he's using to keep his grip on Dreth. It's tied to a relic, a source of unimaginable power. And that power... Jim paused as if the weight of his words was too heavy to bear. That power is not just Malith's, it's the planet's too. Zaya crossed her arms, her expression hardening. You're telling us that Dreth itself is part of his power? How does that even make sense? Jim nodded slowly. Dreth was once a thriving planet, rich in resources. But centuries ago, an ancient civilization buried something here, a force that could reshape reality itself. Malith found it. He uncovered the power deep within the core of this planet. That's what makes him so strong. He's using Dreth's core as a conduit for his abilities. Without it, he would be just another psychic with a few tricks up his sleeve. With it, he's a god to these people. Alex felt his stomach tighten. A god? How could one person... No, how could any one being have that much power? Jim looked Alex in the eye, his voice low and grim. Because he doesn't just control the minds of the people. He controls the very essence of Dreth. The land, the people, even the water. They're all connected to him now. If you want to take him down, you're not just fighting a man, you're fighting the planet itself. R3X's input. As the weight of Jim's revelation sank in, R3X's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Oh, delightful. A psychic overlord with a planet-sized power source. And here I was thinking we just need to face a few lackeys and steal some food. But hey, if we're going for the full Galactic conquest experience, I'm all in. Zaya shot a sharp glance at the ship's AI. R3X, now's not the time for jokes. Who's joking? I'm just pointing out the obvious. You've got a psychic with godlike abilities and a planet's core powering him up like some kind of cosmic battery. Not to mention, he's probably got an army of minions. This mission is shaping up to be quite the spectacle. Alex gave a small chuckle despite the seriousness of the situation. Great, just what we need. R3X's charm to lift our spirits. Zaya shook her head, but she couldn't suppress a smile. We need a plan, not jokes. Jim sighed, his face hardening as he continued. Muleth's power is tied to the core of Dreth. It's not just a relic, it's the heart of the planet itself. He found an ancient temple beneath the surface. That's where the power lies. It's a wellspring of energy, an artifact from an age long gone, and it's been buried beneath Dreth for millennia. When he tapped into it, he didn't just become a psychic, he became a part of the planet's very soul. Alex's mind raced. A temple beneath the planet's surface. So, if we want to take Muleth down, we have to destroy whatever is at the core of Dreth. But we'll be up against more than just him, won't we? Jim nodded gravely. Exactly. The people here believe Muleth is a savior. They worship him because they think he controls their fate. The longer he's in power, the harder it will be to break his hold. And we're not just fighting a man, we're fighting an entire system. The temple, the relic, it all connects to Muleth. Destroy it, and you destroy him, but it won't be easy. Zaya uncrossed her arms and looked at Alex. So we go to the heart of Dreth, destroy this power, and take down Muleth. It sounds simple enough. Jim looked at her with a bitter smile. It would be if we didn't have to fight an entire army to get there. The temple's surrounded by Muleth's most loyal followers. Psychics, warriors, and worst of all, Muleth's elite guard, a group of enhanced soldiers with abilities that rival his own. R3X. And I thought we were done with fighting for a while. Let me guess, they've got a whole fleet of giant robots too, right? Or better yet, a secret army of sentient potatoes. Zaya sighed, her patience wearing thin. R3X, focus. Alex took a deep breath, his mind already working through the strategy. We need to find a way to bypass his defenses. If we can get close enough to the temple, we can take down Muleth's power source. Once we do that, we'll deal with the rest. Jim's eyes flickered with a hint of something. Fear, hope, determination. It's not just about taking him down. It's about saving Dreth. The people here don't know it yet, but they're trapped in his illusion. If you destroy the power source, you'll free them from Muleth's control. Alex turned to Zaya, her expression unreadable as she processed the information. I don't like the idea of just destroying the source. There's got to be another way to free the people without leaving a giant crater where Dreth used to be. Jim shook his head. It's too late for that. The power is embedded in the core of Dreth. If you try to remove it any other way, it will destroy the planet. You have to destroy it from the inside. Oh, that's just wonderful. A planet with a ticking time bomb at its core, and we're the ones who get to pull the trigger. Who thought this would be a good idea? Just out of curiosity. Zaya glared at R3X. I think we get it, R3X. We're on our own here. As the crew processed the weight of their new mission, R3X couldn't resist adding more commentary. R3X, well, let's look on the bright side. It's either we stop Muleth, or we become part of the cosmic trash heap. Your choice, Captain. Zaya rolled her eyes, but Alex couldn't help but smirk. Right, thanks for that, R3X. We'll figure it out. Jim stood up, adjusting his apron, a sense of resolve settling over him. You'll need to move fast. The longer Muleth remains in power, the stronger his hold on Dreth will become. We have to destroy the source before he figures out what we're up to. Alex stood as well, clapping Jim on the shoulder. We'll get it done, but we're going to need more than just food. We need weapons, intel, and allies. Jim's eyes sparkled with a renewed sense of purpose. I've got a few ideas, but the clock's ticking. The crew stood in the dim light of the Eclipse's briefing room, maps and blueprints of Dreth's capital city scattered across the table. The ship's hum was almost inaudible in the quiet tension that filled the room. Outside, Dreth's harsh landscape stretched into the horizon, but inside, the air was thick with anticipation. Alex surveyed the map, his fingers tracing the path that would take them through the heart of the city, to the center of Maleth's fortress. The walls and halls of the ancient structure loomed large in his mind, each corner potentially filled with traps, psychic guardians, and the endless threats Maleth had cultivated over his reign. Maleth's castle is in the center of the city, Jim said, his voice cutting through the silence. He stood nearby, arms folded, his gaze intent on the map. It's surrounded by layers of defense, psychic wards, energy shields, and his elite guards. But there's a way in. Zaya glanced up from her weapons, her eyes sharp. A way in? You make it sound like a walk in the park. We're talking about a fortress that could make Fort Knox look like a cardboard box. Jim smiled faintly, the usual confidence back in his demeanor. It's not easy, but it's doable. The back entrance to the castle is hidden behind the old market district. It's where Maleth's influence is weakest. The psychic wards don't reach that far, but you'll have to move fast. Once you breach the outer walls, the security will go into overdrive. And trust me, that's when the real challenge begins. Alex nodded, already planning their next move. We need to move in quickly, hit them hard, and destroy the power source. We can't afford to waste any time. Zaya stood, her posture resolute. If we're going in, we need to be prepared for anything. We can't let Maleth get the drop on us. Let's make sure our weapons are loaded and our minds are sharp. Weapons? Oh, you mean the toys we're bringing along to a psychic battle? This will be a fun ride, I can already feel it. Get ready to face an army of mind-controlled lackeys. And let's not forget the psychic traps. I mean, we could get lost in a hallway and suddenly it's welcome to the Twilight Zone. Just the usual, right? Alex shot a glare at the ship's AI. Thanks for the pep talk. I'm just saying, it'll be fun. I do love a good psychic battle. Well, not love, more like tolerating it. We'll see how it goes, Captain. The Eclipse landed just outside the city's borders, close to the decrepit remnants of an ancient highway. The crew disembarked, Jim leading the way through the desolate landscape. The once bustling streets of Dreth had long since fallen silent, overtaken by decay and the harsh grip of Maleth's rule. It was as if the planet had forgotten how to live. Keep your eyes peeled, Alex said, leading the crew toward the city center. The ruined buildings loomed like forgotten monuments, their empty windows watching them as they passed. Zaya's hand hovered near her weapon, her senses alert. I don't like this. It's too quiet, there's no one around. Jim glanced back, his usual smirk replaced by a serious look. Dreth is like this now. Under Maleth's rule, the people have been cowed into submission. Most are too scared to even show their faces. But they're watching, the ones who still remember what life was like before. They passed a few shuttered buildings, the remains of old markets and homes. In the distance, the towering spires of Maleth's castle loomed, casting long shadows over the city. This place really screams bad decisions all over it. It's like the ideal backdrop for a villainous monologue. But hey, as long as we can get some food, I'm fine with it. Alex shot a quick glance at Zaya. If we make it out of here alive, we'll have plenty of time for snacks. As they neared the castle, Jim led them down a narrow, winding alley that opened up into a forgotten market district. The area was eerily quiet, abandoned, with nothing but the occasional rustling of wind between the broken stalls. A few pieces of debris and rusted metal were scattered around, remnants of a once thriving commerce center. This is it, Jim said, stopping in front of a crumbling stone wall. He reached out, pressing a hidden panel that slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a small passage leading deeper underground. Alex didn't hesitate. Let's move. The longer we stay out here, the more likely Maleth will sense us. They entered the passage, Jim leading them through narrow, dimly lit tunnels that twisted beneath the city. The walls were slick with moisture, and the air was thick with the smell of decay. As they moved deeper, the oppressive weight of the planet's psychic influence seemed to grow heavier, and Alex felt a subtle pressure in his mind. R3X. And here we are, the part where we all get our minds twisted into pretzels. You might want to keep your wits about you. One wrong step and we'll be hearing voices telling us to join Malith's glorious revolution or something like that. Not helping, R3X, Zaya muttered, but there was a glint of amusement in her eyes. The passage ended in a small chamber and Jim held up his hand. This is it, the back entrance to Malith's castle. The security here is minimal, but once we're inside, things will get a lot trickier. Malith's psychic wards are strongest at the main entrance, but he's still going to sense us once we breach this area. We have to move fast. Alex nodded, pulling out his weapon. Let's do this. As Jim led the way through the hidden entrance, they entered the castle grounds through a small, forgotten door that creaked open. The heavy air inside the castle was thick with the remnants of Malith's psychic control. Alex could feel the walls closing in on them, the oppressive weight of the castle's power nearly suffocating. This is it, Jim whispered. The heart of his empire. From here, we move toward the inner sanctum. They crept forward, their steps muffled by the stone floor, until they reached the inner halls of the fortress. The corridors were dimly lit, casting long shadows on the cold stone walls. The flickering lights above only added to the eerie feeling of the place. It was a monument to Malith's rule, built to intimidate and control. R3X. You know, I was expecting more dramatic flair, maybe a few more torture chambers, or at least some ominous statues. It's like Malith forgot to hire an interior designer. Zaya shot a look at R3X, barely holding back a laugh. Focus, R3X. This is serious. The crew pressed forward, keeping close to the walls and avoiding the main halls. They were getting closer to the inner sanctum, but they knew the real battle would come once they reached Malith's power source. Jim's plan was to infiltrate his control center, but Alex wasn't so sure they would get there without a fight. As they moved deeper into the castle, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Zaya held up her hand, signaling for the crew to stop. They crouched behind a column, waiting as the footsteps grew louder. Alex's heart raced. Were they walking into a trap? The sound stopped abruptly. Alex glanced at Jim, his eyes asking the unspoken question, "Are we ready for this?" Jim gave a barely perceptible nod. "Stay sharp." Just as they were about to move again, a voice rang out from the darkness. "Who goes there?" The voice was cold, commanding, and unmistakable. Alex's blood ran cold. It was one of Malith's elite guards. The castle's stone walls loomed tall and imposing, their cold, ancient surfaces reflecting the dim lights that flickered ominously overhead. The air inside was thick with the weight of centuries of oppression, a silence that spoke volumes. Alex's heart raced as he crouched behind a column, listening to the distant echo of footsteps growing louder. The moment of truth had arrived. Well, this is it, folks. The moment where we either shine or end up as snacks for Malith's mind-controlled minions. Either way, I'm here for the show. Zaya raised an eyebrow but didn't respond. She was focused, scanning the corridor for any sign of movement. Jim stood to the side, his large frame barely making a sound as he prepared himself. It was clear that Jim wasn't just a chef, he was more than capable of holding his own in a fight. But the real test was yet to come. "Stay close," Alex whispered, his voice barely audible. "Once we move, we stick together. No one gets left behind." The footsteps grew louder, and Zaya motioned for everyone to move. They shuffled silently down the hall, their movements precise and measured. They were so close to Malith's inner sanctum now that Alex could practically feel the pulse of the planet's power vibrating beneath the floorboards. Suddenly, a figure appeared around the corner. Tall, armored, and holding a glowing energy blade, the elite guard moved with a predator's grace. It wasn't just a soldier, it was a force of nature, enhanced by Malith's psychic power. R3X, well, hello there, Mr. Overcompensated Bodyguard. Do you come with a gift basket? The guard paused as he spotted Alex and the crew. His piercing gaze swept over them, and Alex knew they had been made. Without hesitation, the guard raised his weapon, charging toward them with deadly intent. "Get down!" Alex barked as he dove to the side. In an instant, Zaya reacted, her blaster coming to life in her hands. A shot rang out, but the guard was fast, deflecting the blast with a quick flick of his energy blade. Jim, on the other hand, was already moving. His swords, which had been hanging at his side, were drawn with lightning speed, the metal gleaming under the faint light. "Move now!" Jim shouted, his deep voice commanding. Alex rolled to his feet, drawing his own weapon, and Zaya followed suit, firing another shot that narrowly missed the guard. The energy blade in the guard's hand flickered with a hum as it deflected another of Zaya's blasts. R3X. Oh, this is turning into a proper fight now. The guard's a professional, and well, let's just say we're improvising. But hey, who doesn't love a good old battle? The guard advanced again, and this time, Jim was ready. With a sudden movement, he swung both of his swords in a fluid arc, the heavy metal blades cutting through the air. The elite guard parried the strike with surprising ease, their blades meeting with a clash that sent a shockwave through the hall. Zaya took the opportunity, darting behind a pillar to get a better shot. She fired a series of rapid blasts at the guard's side, each shot expertly aimed. But the guard was fast, and with a burst of psychic energy, he deflected the shots and closed the distance between them. "Watch out," Zaya yelled, but it was too late. The guard lunged, aiming for Alex. In that moment, Jim stepped forward, his swords flashing. He intercepted the attack, blocking the guard's energy blade with one of his own. The two combatants locked blades, and Jim's muscles strained as he pushed back, struggling to keep the guard's strength at bay. R3X. This is like a kitchen knife fight, only with more explosions and a much higher risk of dismemberment. Please, for the love of all things culinary, don't let Jim get diced up. Jim growled, using his strength to force the guard back, but the elite soldier wasn't slowing down. He swung again, and Jim barely managed to block, his swords screeching as they collided. "This guy's good," Jim grunted, sweat starting to bead on his forehead. Alex stepped forward, his blaster raised. But before he could fire, the guard turned sharply, sending a shockwave of psychic energy through the air. The blast knocked Alex back, sending him crashing into the wall. Arthax. Well, I guess that answers the question of whether or not he's a psychic. Would have been nice if we'd gotten that memo sooner. Zaya jumped to Alex's side, pulling him to his feet. "Get up! We can't afford to be knocked out now!" Jim, still engaged in battle with the guard, barely had time to react before the elite soldier launched another strike at him. With a grunt, Jim sidestepped, narrowly avoiding the lethal blow. His eyes locked with Alex's, and in that split second, Alex knew what had to be done. "We need to take him down now," Alex said through gritted teeth. "Jim, distract him. Zaya, get ready to fire." Without waiting for a response, Jim nodded. He surged forward, launching a fierce series of attacks, forcing the guard to focus entirely on him. The clash of blades echoed through the hall, each strike ringing like a bell. Zaya aimed her blaster, carefully calculating her shot. She had one chance to take him down. She exhaled slowly, steadying herself, and fired. The shot hit its mark. The elite guard staggered, his armor cracking from the blast. The force of the shot knocked him back a few steps, and in that moment, Jim took advantage, landing a powerful blow that sent the guard sprawling to the ground. R3X. Well, that was almost too easy. Too bad we didn't get to cook him up for dinner. Oh wait, no. That would have been disgusting. Alex, now standing with Zaya, watched as Jim walked over to the fallen guard, his sword still glowing with the remnants of their battle. The guard was unconscious but alive. "You all right?" Alex asked Jim, breathing heavily. Jim wiped the sweat from his forehead, his hands still gripping his swords. "Yeah, I'm good, but we're not out of the woods yet. This was just one of Malith's elite guards. There'll be more ahead. We need to keep moving." Zaya shot Alex a look. "We can't waste time. Let's get to that core before Malith figures out what's going on." Oh, now that was a fun fight. I can already feel the dramatic music in the background. Anyway, folks, welcome to the real deal. The castle's still filled with more enemies, and if I were you, I'd make sure we're fully prepared for what's coming. No more distractions, let's finish this. Alex nodded, his expression hardening. Right, we're not done yet, let's keep going. The deep hum of the Eclipse's engine seemed to fade into the distance as the crew navigated through the cold stone corridors of Malith's castle. Their footsteps echoed with each stride, a grim reminder of the task ahead. Malith's fortress had no warmth, no light, except for the flickering of dim overhead lamps. It felt as if the castle itself was alive, breathing in the fear of the people it controlled. Alex led the way, his pulse steady despite the weight of the mission pressing down on him. Zaya was right behind him, her eyes scanning every corner, while Jim, with his swords at the ready, stayed alert, clearly prepared for what was to come. R3X. And here we are, folks, the grand finale, the evil overlord's lair, complete with a fortress made of stone and psychic energy. Let's see if they've got any cool traps. Maybe something dramatic, like a pit full of fire or a floor that opens up into a bottomless void. Zaya rolled her eyes but couldn't help a small chuckle. Focus, R3X. We've got a bigger fish to fry. Alex's eyes locked on the entrance ahead, the door that led to the heart of Malith's power. Behind it, Alex knew, lay the relic that fueled the Tyrant's dominance over Dreth. He could feel the pulse of it, the subtle tremor of power that vibrated through the very walls of the castle. It was almost as if Dreth itself was aware of their presence, knowing that its time was running out. The door to the inner sanctum of Malith's stronghold slid open with a loud hiss, revealing a grand chamber, unlike any room they had seen so far. The walls were lined with ancient runes, glowing faintly, pulsating with an eerie energy that seemed to hum with a life of its own. In the center of the room stood a raised platform, and upon it a large crystal shimmering with dark, swirling energy. Malith was standing beside it, his back to the crew. His silhouette was tall, regal even, his cloak billowing in the faint breeze that seemed to come from nowhere. His presence filled the room, suffocating the air, and Alex could feel his psychic influence pressing down on him like a heavy weight. Malith's voice, smooth and commanding, filled the room without him even turning around. "I've been expecting you," he said, his words rich with power. "You think you can defeat me? You think you can just waltz in here and take everything I've built?" Alex stepped forward, his voice unwavering. "It's over, Malith. Your reign of terror ends today." Malith finally turned, a smirk spreading across his face. His eyes were glowing with that same dark power that resonated through the entire room. "You've come to destroy me? Foolish. You cannot defeat me. I am the very embodiment of Dreth. I am the planet's will. You cannot destroy me, not without destroying it." Alex's heart skipped a beat. The planet's will? He thought. So this isn't just about Malith, he's literally tied to Dreth itself. R3X. Oh, lovely. So we're dealing with a god complex and a planet attachment issue. This just got a whole lot more complicated. Maybe I should have suggested a therapy session before we came in here. Zaya's voice cut through the tension. "We didn't come here to negotiate, Malith. We came here to end this. Your control over Dreth ends now." Malith's expression darkened. "You think you can just walk in and destroy me? The relic is the heart of this planet. It is mine. It is my power." Jim stepped forward, his eyes locked on the crystal at the center of the room. "That's where you're wrong. The relic belongs to the people of Dreth, not to you. You've used it to control them, but its true power isn't meant for domination." Malith sneered. "You dare lecture me, a mere cook? You think you know anything about this power?" Jim's fists clenched at his sides, but his voice remained calm. "I know enough to know that this power should never have been in your hands, and I know that you won't get away with it." The air around them seemed to shimmer, the psychic pressure increasing, but Alex knew they had to act now. Malith's hand shot up, and the room seemed to crackle with energy. The crystal in the center of the room pulsed violently, sending waves of dark energy flooding the chamber. Alex felt the pressure in his mind as if his very thoughts were being ripped apart. "Get ready!" Zaya shouted as she drew her blaster, firing at the crystal. The shot ricocheted off, sending sparks flying, but the crystal didn't shatter. RDX. "Oh, good shot, Zaya. You just gave Malith his daily dose of frustration. What's next? The power of friendship?" Ignoring R3X's sarcasm, Alex rushed forward, his blaster raised, but Malith's psychic force held him back, pinning him in place. Alex's thoughts clouded, and for a moment he saw flashes of images, visions of Dreth's people, their faces twisted in terror, their wills bent to Malith's control. "You can't stop me," Malith hissed, his voice echoing in Alex's mind. "I am more than just a man. I am Dreth's master. This planet belongs to me." Alex gritted his teeth. "Not anymore." With a surge of strength, Alex broke free from Malith's psychic hold, charging toward the crystal. Jim followed, his swords drawn, slashing through the air as he closed in on Malith's position. Zaya moved alongside him, her blaster firing with precision, creating a distraction. Malith roared in fury, his eyes glowing brighter as he summoned more psychic energy, sending waves of force outward to push them back. But Jim was ready. With a battle cry, he lunged at Malith, his swords flashing in the dim light. Malith parried the attack with ease, but Jim's strength was undeniable, forcing the psychic tyrant to retreat just a step. R3X, and this is where I'd insert some witty commentary about the struggle between good and evil, but I'm too busy hoping they don't get annihilated by the walking power plant in front of us. But the battle was far from over. Alex and Zaya took advantage of Malith's distraction, moving toward the crystal. The air around them crackled with energy, the walls of the room shaking as if the very foundation of Dreth was reacting to their actions. "Now!" Alex shouted, raising his blaster and aiming at the crystal. Zaya fired, hitting the crystal with a focused shot. The crystal flared, sending a shockwave through the room. The blast was enough to crack the surface, and Malith screamed in fury as his power began to destabilize. "No!" Malith howled, his psychic grip tightening, but it was too late. The crystal shattered, releasing a burst of energy that consumed the room in a blinding flash. As the light faded, the crew stood, panting and exhausted, as the remnants of the crystal lay in shattered pieces before them. Malith was no longer standing in the center of the room. Instead, he crumpled to the ground, his form flickering as if the very life force that had once sustained him was draining away. "You." Malith gasped, his voice weak. "You've destroyed everything. Dreth. My kingdom. My power." Alex stepped forward, his expression cold. "It's over, Malith. You'll never control Dreth again." Malith looked up, his eyes filled with fury and desperation. "You have no idea what you've unleashed. Dreth will never be free. It will never be the same." Oh, what a dramatic exit. You know, it's almost like he was rehearsing that line. Too bad no one's buying it anymore. Zaya approached Alex, her eyes wary. "Is it done?" Alex nodded slowly. "It's done. The people of Dreth will be free now. We've destroyed Malith's power and with it, his control." RX. Well, there you have it. A triumphant victory for our ragtag crew and a happy ending for the people of Dreth. No more tyrants, no more mind control unless you count the emotional trauma we'll all be dealing with after this. Jim, who had been standing quietly, wiped his sword clean, his expression serious but satisfied. This wasn't just about taking down Malith, it was about giving Dreth back to the people. They can rebuild now. Alex turned to the rest of the crew, a small smile tugging at his lips. "And that's what we came for. We did it." The crew stood together in the heart of Malith's shattered fortress, a planet's future now in their hands. The aftermath of the battle echoed in the empty halls of Malith's castle. The once grand structure, which had been a symbol of tyranny and oppression, now lay in ruin. The broken pieces of the crystal that had powered Malith's psychic abilities were scattered across the floor, emitting a faint, dim light. The hum of the energy had ceased, and with it, the overwhelming pressure on the crew's minds. It was as if the entire planet had exhaled in relief. Alex stood at the center of the ruins, his gaze lingering on the fragments of the shattered relic. The victory they'd fought for was now a reality, but the weight of what came next was heavy on his mind. Dreth was free from Malith's control, but what would that freedom look like? Could they truly rebuild from the ashes of so many years of oppression? Zaya stepped up beside him, her expression unreadable, but her eyes filled with the same questions. "It's over, isn't it?" she asked quietly, though it was more of a statement than a question. Alex exhaled slowly. "For now, but the work is just beginning." Jim, who had been standing a few feet away, cleaning his swords, approached them. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by something more contemplative. "The people of Dreth have been controlled for so long, they won't just suddenly be free. We've given them a chance, but it's up to them to decide what comes next."
Ah!
Yes, the eternal question. What happens after the bad guy is defeated? Do we get a parade? Do they throw a giant celebration? Or do we get stuck picking up the pieces like in every other We Saved the Galaxy story? Oh, the possibilities. Zaya shot a look at R3X. "Not the time, R3X." Alex turned his attention back to the crew, his voice firm. "We've given them a chance to reclaim their planet. What happens next is in their hands. We can't do the rebuilding for them, but we can make sure they have the resources to start. The people of Dreth need to rise up, not just against Malith, but against the way they've been oppressed for centuries." Jim nodded thoughtfully. "And that's where I come in. I can help with organizing the food supply, get them the tools they need to start fresh. But they need guidance. Without someone to lead them, the vacuum left by Malith's death will be filled with chaos." Alex's eyes narrowed as he considered Jim's words. We don't have time to waste. If we don't help them rebuild, someone else will step in and take control. So we're playing the role of the galactic good guys, huh? I've heard of helping people, but this is like the universe's worst volunteer work assignment. We save the day and then get stuck fixing all the aftermath. Classic. Zaya's expression softened and she looked at Alex. Maybe we don't have to stay forever. Maybe we just need to make sure they have the resources and guidance to get them on their feet. We've already done the hard part. Alex turned to face the group. We can't stay here forever. The rest of the galaxy is waiting for us, and we have our own missions to complete. But for Dreth, we can give them the tools, the resources, and the knowledge to rebuild. But the people will have to choose their own path. The room was quiet for a moment as the weight of their words hung in the air. It was clear to Alex that the crew had done their part, but the true challenge lay ahead. Malith's fall had freed Dreth, but with freedom came responsibility. The people of Dreth had to decide how to use their newfound freedom. Would they rise together, or would they fall into chaos? Jim spoke again, his voice steady but filled with a sense of urgency. We can give them the resources, but they need someone to show them how to use it. Someone with knowledge of how the world works outside of Malith's control. A teacher, a leader. Alex looked at him. And you think you can fill that role? Jim nodded, his eyes unwavering. I've spent my life on Dreth, but I've seen enough to know how things work on other planets. I know what it takes to rebuild. I know how to help them grow. But I can't do it alone. You've given me a chance to be part of something greater, and I won't waste it. Zaya crossed her arms, her gaze shifting from Jim to Alex. What do you think, Alex? Do we stay, or do we leave? Alex exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the decision pressing down on him. We can't stay here forever. We have to move on. But we leave Dreth in good hands. Jim's right. We can't rebuild it for them, but we can give them the tools to do it themselves. Jim stepped forward, his gaze steady. I'll need help, of course, so there will be others who will want to take advantage of the chaos. But I'll start with the people who are ready to rebuild. I'll teach them everything I know, and I'll make sure Malith's legacy of fear doesn't take hold again. Oh, look at us, leaving the planet and leaving behind a legacy of hope. Should I cue the victory music, or are we going to just get right back to the whole fleeing the scene thing? Alex smirked. We'll leave the music to you, R3X. Zaya nodded, her face softening. We've done what we could. Now it's their turn. Alex turned to face the crew, his voice resolute. We've done enough. We're moving on, but we'll leave Dreth in good hands. Jim will help them rebuild, and with time, they'll find their own way. As they made their way back to the Eclipse, R3X's voice echoed through the comms. Well, that was a nice little detour. Good guys, bad guys, and everything in between. But hey, we saved a planet, and now it's time to go save the galaxy. And, get some food on the way. It's been a long day. Zaya smiled softly at the AI's comment. I think we've earned that, don't you? Jim followed behind, his eyes still focused on the horizon, the future of Dreth weighing heavily on his mind. He had a lot of work to do, but for the first time, he felt a sense of purpose. It wasn't about just surviving anymore. It was about rebuilding, reclaiming, and teaching the people of Dreth how to live again. R3X. And here I thought the Chosen One was just a myth, but it looks like Jim's going to play the role of savior here. I'd say good luck, but you seem to have it all figured out. Alex gave a small smile. Good luck, Jim. You've got this. Jim turned to face the crew one last time. I won't let you down. Dreth will rise again, but we all have to make sure we don't repeat the mistakes of the past. With that, the crew boarded the Eclipse, leaving the surface of Dreth behind. As the ship rose into the sky, they knew that their journey wasn't over. The galaxy still needed them, and there was no time to waste, but for the first time in a long while, they had left a place better than they had found it. Thanks for watching part 2 of the journey. Hope you enjoyed the challenges Alex and his crew faced. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch the next thrilling episodes of Alien Watchers. Share your thoughts in the comments below. See you in the next video.